Hey MVPs, RicoKnows here. Good morning. Going to talk to you guys about Georgia Tech and their win totals for next season. If you don't know, I'm doing a series on all the futures bets. I've done every single team in the ACC, starting at the very top. They're in alphabetical order, and we're working our way down. When I finish the ACC, I'm going to give you guys my prediction on who wins the conference. There's a futures bet for this, so it's over here under conference winners. But right now, we're looking at win totals, and as you go down here and you look at win totals, you see it right there. Georgia Tech, Vegas has them at 5.5 wins for the season. They just got done winning 7 games under a new head coach in Brent Key. Just promoted Chris Winkie, the offensive coordinator. This is their quarterback's coach / Heisman Trophy winner. And they got a ton of transfers last offseason that made them really, really competitive last year. Especially if you look at their games last season, some of the things they did really well, and we didn't realize it if you weren't paying attention. First game of the season, a shootout with a team that made it to the ACC championship game, blowing out South Carolina State. Yes, they couldn't beat Ole Miss. Who could? Ole Miss ended up being a top 10 team. At Wake Forest, solid win. A terrible loss to Bowling Green. Still can't believe that one. That was a lock of the week for me, and it was terrible, right? At Miami, beating Miami in a miracle because Miami didn't take the knee and they fumbled the ball. Shout out to Harvey, the running back. He just transferred to Louisville, by the way. Boston College, losing to Boston College, just a terrible loss. They had a very difficult time stopping the run. Couldn't stop Thomas Castellanos and them boys. Beating North Carolina in a shootout. I thought that game went to overtime. Apparently not. But they beat North Carolina in a shootout. Congratulations. At Virginia, easy win for them. That was a pick of ours. Against Clemson, they were competitive, but not really. Losing by 20 points in a down year by Clemson. And then beating Syracuse when Syracuse could not do anything but run the ball. Syracuse couldn't throw it all. That box score looks crazy. And then losing to Georgia 31-23. They played well. I thought they were competitive in their game. And this is really telling to me. You beat a solid UCF team, a team that a lot of people think very highly of in the Big 12 for UCF. They have a great running back. They stopped the run. They did all the things you expected of them. Shout out to Georgia Tech for putting together a very quality season, 7-6 on the season. So now you go 5-3 in the ACC. What's changed from last year to this year that they're predicting they're predicting Georgia Tech not to win more than 5 games. It's 5.5 games. So, Sportsbook has it at 5.5 wins. Remember, that doesn't include your bowl game or the conference championship game. Theoretically, they're not making the conference championship game, right? And we don't count the bowl game. So, it's plus 100 money if they're going to get over 5 wins. It's a tough bet. I want to show you guys the chart here. I apologize. Let me just pull it up real quick. On the chart, I have it as a value bet. Careful. Do value bets very lightly. If we learn anything, I'm treating this like the UFC. These value bets are long shots, and we only put a unit on them. And we just hope we go at over 50% because you're going to always get plus 100 money value on any of the long shots. So as long as you get more right than wrong, you made units. Doesn't matter about the odds, really. Everything's going to be over plus 100. So here's Georgia Tech, 5.5 wins. I think it's possible. But you got to remember, it's a tough schedule. They're not playing the easier teams in the ACC this year. I'm just letting you know now. It's not going to be that easy. So we'll look over the schedule, but when you look it over, before I get to it, I want to talk about the team itself. So let's talk about what happened at Georgia Tech over this last season. Haynes King is the quarterback transferring in from Texas A&M. I told everybody Haynes King was going to be good last year. A lot of it had to do with his preparation. I just remember there was 2 quarterback battles at Texas A&M. In 2021, they had the quarterback position was up for tryouts. And the guy who won the job was Haynes King. Now, he didn't keep the job all season. He eventually lost it. But when it comes to preparing and competing for a quarterback job, Haynes King wins that job. And that just tells me he prepares like a pro. Tells me he knows what he's doing. And he has a certain skill set. And when he goes to practice, he looks better than everybody. Now, he gets into a game, he struggled at times. That's not the case when he got to Georgia Tech. Last season, the one guy who did not struggle at all was Haynes King. Whether people knew about it or not, going into this next season, I think Haynes King is a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the country. I think he's one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks around. People don't realize how fast he is, how great of a runner he is. This is a young man who rushed for over 700 yards last year. Second on the team in rushing, over 6 yards a carry, 10 rushing touchdowns, led the team. This is a dual-threat quarterback. One of the best dual-threat quarterbacks. He's so fast. So as long as he can learn how to throw the ball, and you see it here, 2,800 yards, 61 completion percentage. You have a guy like Chris Winkie teaching you for 2 years now how to throw this ball. You're going to be just fine. Touchdown to interception ratio is the biggest issue here. Threw 16 picks. But he did throw 27 interceptions. 2-to-1 is not good enough. I need 3-to-1 to be great. But Haynes King is not bad. He's a very good quarterback. The fact that he's coming back to start again is incredible. I'm excited for him. We'll talk about it more. Jamal Haynes, starting running back, 1,000 yards last year. Little guy, not going to move the chains all that much, but he's great in space. In high school, he went to Grayson High School. No, Parkview? Where'd he go? I don't remember where he went. I watched him play in high school a ton. I think it was Grayson. And he was a punt returner, slot receiver, and he was getting the ball in space. At no time did any of us, including myself, ever think, oh man, this guy would be a good running back. Oh, we need to get him at running back. That's not how it works. There was injuries, transfers, and he's at practice one day, and he's just doing the damn thing, and now he's the starting running back. I think it's a remarkable story. I think it's incredible, but it also gives him a certain amount of ability that he just got a little more juice than other running backs. He's a slot receiver. He's a little quicker. He can make you miss and keep going. I like Jamal Haynes. I like both Haynes. Jamal Haynes and Haynes King. Both them guys are studs. Shout out to them. I think Trey Cooley's coming back another year, but don't quote me on that. I got to double check. And then Evan Dickens, right? But when you look at the receivers, coming back. Christian Leary coming back. Like, they're receivers, and it's no secret why Jamal Haynes can catch 20 passes, okay? Here's the thing. Eric Singleton Jr., true freshman, speedster, matchup nightmare. Reminds me a lot of all the star receivers that went to Georgia Tech in the early 2000s. Eric Singleton Jr. is him. Malik Rutherford is him. Like, these guys are very good wide receivers. Dominic Blaylock, Georgia transfer. I think that was his final year of eligibility. Shout out to him. But look at Christian Leary right there. Christian Leary is an Alabama transfer. Christian Leary's great. Good return man. I think he has the most upside of all the receivers if he can just put it together. Okay, just put it together. Abdul Jana, transfer from the FCS last year. He's a big body guy, but didn't get enough reps and enough playing time. Chase Lane, hopefully he gets more playing time. If you don't remember Chase Lane, he was a Texas A&M wide receiver, and he transferred to Georgia Tech with his quarterback. Now, the receiver core might take a hit. And the reason I'm saying that right now, they're one of the best receiving cores out there. And they're all working together, and they love their coach. They love their quarterback. But just, 7 hours ago? 7 hours ago, Georgia Tech wide receivers coach Josh Crawford leaving. And he's headed to Georgia. Now, I don't know if he takes any players with him, but there's a relationship there. If you guys don't know Josh Crawford, one of the more successful high school head coaches in Georgia history. He's been at like 5 of the schools. Been to state titles all over the place. This is a very good wide receivers coach. He's just a good people person. He's got all the pipelines going. And this is how Georgia was becoming relevant. They're keeping talent in state. So much so, I went to go look at their depth chart. And now, shout out to our lads. Probably the best website for depth charts, but they have not updated their depth charts. I see it all the time. People go on here and they think this is a fact. It's not a fact. None of this is updated. You don't see any yellow in here. If you saw yellows would be transfers. They don't have any transfers added to this chart, so we can't really tell who's joining the team. Now, I know the transfers, but if you were just the average person wanting to go look at depth charts, the website's not updated. Just fair warning. You see far right over here, these are all the departures. Usually they should be highlighted in red, and they're going to the NFL or they ran out of eligibility. So these are all the departures. But if you look over here, you see his name right here, Bailey Stockton? I really like Bailey Stockton. He's a stud, man. He's a high school player, played at Prince Avenue Christian. They got Aaron Philo coming in as one of the backup quarterbacks. He's not even on here. Aaron Philo was his quarterback 2 years ago when they were winning state titles. This is 1A football, but the best 1A football in the world. So I really, really like Bailey Stockton just for being there. No, he's not at the same level as some of these other guys, but it's cool as hell to see his name on there, okay? Just to keep local kids at home. Brett Seether transferring in from Georgia. You see all these transfers. And they don't have any other transfers in the depth chart, but these were transfers from last year. You see it here, senior transfer, junior transfer. You see them, but they don't count any of the transfers from this year. And I'm going to tell you, there's some decent names in the transfer portal going to Georgia Tech for sure. So I'm excited about their offense. When you get to their defense, this is where things get a little worrisome. There are departures on the defense. There are. Paul's run out of eligibility. Jalen King's fine. But when I start looking, I think Kyle Kennard, the team's leading sacker, just transferred to South Carolina. KJ Wallace transferred to UCLA. Daquan Dose, he transferred. He's gone. Keenan Johnson transferred to Utah. He's gone. So you lose a lot of depth to other teams, and the defense wasn't great to begin with. They were in a lot of shootouts and things like this. They're just going to have to outscore teams. They're going to have to outscore teams. Haynes King and these boys are going to have to go out there and put it on them. They don't look like they have a great defense. Reality of the situation. All right. So, once again, I talked about Eric Singleton here. 5'11", 175, straight out of Douglasville, Georgia. Dominating, extremely fast. Good receiver. Beat Georgia for 96 yards. Good receiver. Okay, especially after being a freshman, 1 year in the weight room, he just keep going. He's hard to match up with. Malik Rutherford, another good receiver, short kid out of Miami, doing his thing. Been at school for a little while. I like Malik Rutherford. Dominic Blaylock, don't worry about it. He'll be back another year. That's cool. Christian Leary, the Alabama transfer, very good player. Very good player. Dylan Leonard, it is what it is. Abdul Jana, I wanted to talk about him. These stats here are from the FCS level. So he needs to come back and do it again. But this time, he needs to be more consistent and actually play in the games. Just disappeared for moments all season long. He's down on the depth chart. Chase Lane transferring in from Texas A&M, like I said. Seether transferring in from Georgia. Big kid, by the way. Jalen King, stud, going to the NFL. Harvey, one of the best young defensive backs on the team. Very, very good. And Kyle Kennard transferred out and went to South Carolina. Damn shame, because he's a good player. Good player. All right, now let's talk about their transfers. Transfers coming in. Tafasi moving in from Florida State. This is going to be a good defensive lineman they need in the rotation. 6'5", 300 pounds. He was going to be in Florida State's rotation as well. So this is not a big loss, but a significant loss for Florida State for sure. EJ Lightsey. This is a young kid coming out of high school, one of those 4-star kids. They say 3 stars here, but he was 4 stars. Was an all-state player, but he played in 2A football. Shout out to Fitzgerald. Went to Georgia, couldn't get in the 2 deep. He's been at Georgia for a couple years, or 2 seasons. It's not the end of the world. And now he's going to Georgia Tech, probably where he should have gone coming out of high school. Very underwhelmed by this signing here of Jack Barton. I don't even see him ever seeing the field, and if he does, something went wrong. I don't understand it, but he's a transfer in from Furman. Not impressed. Just going to Georgia Tech. I don't know. You need bodies. You got an old dude. Saeed Gibbs, very good player, out of Rhode Island, coming in to be a corner. He will be on the field. He will be in the nickel. He'll be in the rotation. It's a good player. Another tight end coming over from an SEC school. I thought Goody was from Georgia. I think he went to Georgia first, and then he went to Mississippi State, and now he's at Georgia Tech. Rutledge coming back home. Congratulations. Not impressed. And Warren Burrell could be a top 10 corner. Used to start at Tennessee. As long as he's not injured, he's a top 10 corner. So they got great additions in the secondary that I like. Saeed Gibbs and Warren Burrell. Literally, Warren Burrell's a top 10 corner in the portal. I'm not joking. You can talk about all those guys from Alabama. Dez Ricks, Rico. No, dude, I'm telling you. I went and turned on the tape. That's a very good player. It's a player who's played in over 30 games in the SEC. He started 24 games in the SEC already. Like, this is a real player, as long as he's healthy. Shout out to them. People departing, I already talked about it for the most part. Wallace going to UCLA, significant. Kenyatta Watson maybe had 4 tackles all season, not a big deal. Dowse going to Michigan State, congratulations. He'll be plugging some holes. Pause. Zach Gibson, insignificant. I'm sorry. Keenan Johnson was a nickel corner. Going to Utah, he was the 5th guy, and then that's your biggest loss. Kyle Kennard at the edge. Not a big deal, but I don't think it impacts your win-loss total. But it's the biggest loss they have. All right, enough of that. What you guys want to know? Oh, Rico, who are they going to beat? So their first game is in Dublin, Ireland. They're playing Florida State. Doesn't look like they're going to win that game. A lot of people believe in Florida State to win this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see Georgia Tech be competitive in this game, outscoring Florida State. And now they might go out there and lose 30-0. We don't know. It's the first game of the season. We're not quite sure who's going to be hitting on all cylinders. I wouldn't bet on that game. That is just the game you gather data from, period. Okay? So that's that. Now, they're beating Georgia State. they're beating Syracuse. They're beating VMI. So they'll be 3-1 at this point. I believe this. They'll be 3-1. And now you got that rematch of that shootout from last season against Louisville. The difference is Louisville has a great recruiting class. Great transfer portal class. And it's year number 2 in a Brom offense. I think being at Louisville after, an easy game against VMI, it's going to be close. I don't know who's winning. So even if you only have them with 3 wins right here, they beat Duke. That's 4 wins. And now they have to get 5 to 6 wins. They have to beat both North Carolina on the road and Virginia Tech on the road. Because we don't have them beating Notre Dame, Miami, NC State, or Georgia. And that's why their win total is 5.5. Because in order for them to get 5.5 wins, they need to beat Louisville, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech. Somewhere in there, they need to get 2 out of these 3. And this is why it's a very value bet with 1 unit. It's going to be tough. But I want to remind you, they beat certain teams they weren't supposed to beat last year. I could see them beating NC State. I know NC State's got a great transfer portal class. I know a lot of people are high on them, but not me, man. NC State's defense was great last year. Shout out to Peyton Wilson. He's not there anymore. Okay? Their offense is all transfers, all new guys. The continuity, I don't know if it's there. I don't know. Injuries could happen. You're not sure how far out these games are. I know this. They have a week of preparation before that game. They have a week of preparation before the Miami game, which they beat Miami last year. It was a miracle. They beat them, but it was a very close game regardless. So can they do it again? It's about getting weeks off in preparation. That's why I think they beat Duke. I really think they beat North Carolina. There's no Drake May there. It's Max Johnson, bro. We know Max Johnson. It's just, what are we doing? Samara and Hampton running the ball like crazy. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins. That's where I'm at. 6 wins gets you the over. And if you don't believe in those 6 wins, don't bet it. Leave it alone. But I'm going to bet my reputation on it. I'm going to put it on the chart. I have them getting 6 wins. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all. Be safe.